How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the corner. I am the DM as always. And Happy New Year! It's been a while. I know, I haven't even made a video and it's already been a week since the new year, but I'm here to change that. Now, what are we talking about? Well, as you can see, I have Path of Exile 2 pulled up, and that's for a very specific reason. Um, it's to talk about Melee. Now, a lot of people who have invested way more time into this game than me have already made videos covering this topic. However, as is standard on this channel, I want to make a video about a topic that no one has asked me to make a video about. So that's what I'm going to do. Um, so there are a lot of videos out there discussing sort of the issue with Melee in Path of Exile 2 right now. And I'm not entirely sure how many people are necessarily bringing up the points that I want to bring up. I'm sure that at least a few of them have been. But one of the first things I want to point out, because I had just finished watching your boy Jazzerus's video on sort of reacting to a Zizarin video. And I've already seen the Zizarin video. Basically, he's talking about a lot of issues that he's seeing with Melee. And his video doesn't really cover the things that I feel that it should be covered. So in Path of Exile 2, one of the biggest upgrades to Path of Exile was the movement system. As you can see, I can move around here. I can cast spells while moving and everything, right? And this is sort of one of the big selling points for Path of Exile 2, is that you can move around with WASD, with a controller, with mouse, whatever, and still be casting your spells. It gives you a lot of more mobility. It makes the game a lot more active. It can make boss encounters a lot more interesting. We'll get to that in a moment, don't worry. But that's one of the big selling points. And for Melee, they don't get that. They just don't. And to illustrate this point, I want to go and move over. So I have my warrior here. As you can see, he's only level 10. I also have a monk, level 8. But this is my warrior. He's called Me Big Man, Me Big Smash. Because, I mean, that's what he is. He's a big man, and he does really big smashes, right? So I want to show you guys something. So over here in my hideout, you can say I have rolling slam on my right click. So if, you know, I'm sitting here moving around everything, and if I hit that, I can't really move, right? As you can see, I'm holding W and D, and my character is only moving forward, right? Now, if we go ahead and use just the Mace Strike, you can also see that as I attack, there are, you know, I do these like little micro stutters. And even here, I'm holding W and D, and my character is only going in the direction of my mouse. Well, why is that? That is the question. If I move over to my two-handed setup, you can see that I still have that same issue where I'm holding W and D, and the character is just moving forward. They're not moving backwards as I attack, right? So if we go ahead and use Earthquake, right? So I'm going to hold D, I'm going to hit Q, and as you can see, he moves forward for a little bit, and then does the attack. If I just put that over here, right, we'll hold W and D, and you can see that he automatically moves forward and then does an attack, right? He doesn't do what my Infernalist was doing, which is cast the spell while moving in the direction that I'm pressing, right? If we go ahead and do Infernal Cry, you can see that one does, in fact, let you move, but you can see it has a pretty lengthy cooldown, right? You know, so that one I can, but what does Infernal Cry do? Well, it just does kind of a little, small little AoE, it doesn't do any kind of damage. It just sort of gives your attack a little bit of a buff. All right, so here I am on my monk. I have Staggering Palm and Glacial Cascade as my primary abilities, and you can see that I can just kind of move around. If I hold W and D and hit my Staggering Palm, you can see that the character stops and then does the attack, right? For Glacial Cascade, however, you can see I can hold the ability and keep moving. But you'll notice there's a difference between these two abilities. Glacial Cascade is a ranged ability, whereas Staggering Palm is a melee ability. And you can see even here, I'm holding A. My character is not moving, okay? I have to let off of the attack button, click, and then wait for the attack to fully finish before I am allowed to continue moving. The same is true for Killing Palm. If I hold that, you can see I am not moving. I am holding W and D. This character is not moving, but if I stop, my character only begins moving once the ability has fully finished. Okay. This is the primary issue that I see that I don't really see a lot of people talking about, is this this notion of melee feels really bad compared to literally any class that uses ranged abilities. And the reason why is because the game does not allow melee to leverage the mobility, right? The only real mobility that, say, mace skills have is like Rolling Slam, which propels you forward with those two slams, but you do not have active hit frames during that whole thing, meaning you are not damaging things as you are moving forward, only when your mace actually hits the ground, okay? You also have no form of invincibility frames during the attack, so while you're sitting there running forward with your mace, here, let me go back over to my warrior and I'll show you. So back over here, right, Rolling Slam, the issue with it is you can see there's a lot of time here where you do it, and you see that, like, he's running forward with the mace cocked back. And there's all this time that he's doing that where you're just susceptible to being hit and you can't do anything. Now, you can technically redirect it if you hold down the button, right? But the thing you'll notice is it's still the same issue where you are just stuck in this big running animation. You don't have any form of invincibility frames, so you're just taking a bunch of hits during the entire wind-up to it before you actually land the first hit, and then after that, there's this secondary animation where you're just locked into this big overhead swing before you hit the ground for a secondary layer of damage. But again, no invincibility frames. No active hit frames, so it's not like you're doing damage the entire animation of the Rolling Slam. You're not. It's only right there and right there. Those are the only two frames that you are doing any amount of damage. Okay? And that's honestly the biggest issue that I've not seen anyone talk about, is your abilities are have an extremely long wind-up, and as a result are very, very slow. And during that whole wind-up, right? So, like, if I hit that and then hit D, right? You can see that eventually it will cancel the animation, right? But it does not allow me... I'm lagging a little bit. But you can see, like, after the animation really starts, you can't move, right? And that's the biggest issue. And again, with, like, the auto attack, right? Like, you can't move during this. You are forced to go forward the entire time. Like, and so that's the first issue I wanted to bring up. Now, the second issue I can't really show you on my warrior because my warrior isn't really all that strong. Now, you may have noticed it already. And if you have, I applaud you. But something I want to something I want you to take a look at, right? Okay, so in Jazzer's video, what I want you to look at is right here. I want you to look at his life total. So Jazzer's character is, I believe, level 90. He's a Titan, right? And if I scroll, there's a part in his video where he pulls up his ascendancies. Hang on. Okay, so this is his ascendancy. Okay. So Jazzerus is a Warbringer. Okay. Now, Warbringers give you block chance right here where you can block damage from all hits while the shield is not raised. This is pretty huge. It does give you 35% less block chance, but being able to block all hits without having the shield raised is massive. Because when you have the shield raised, you're stuck there. You can't move, and it only blocks from the front. Okay. And one thing else you'll notice here is there is no ability that gives you increased life. Now, if you go Titan, you can pick up this, which gives you a plus 15% to your maximum life. Now, if we go into the passive tree here, and we type in maximum life, okay? Now, if we come up here, you'll notice that there are a lot of nodes that are flashing, but all of these are minions, okay? All these nodes up here that are flashing are minions. If we scroll over here, we can start to see there's a, oh, well, we have two. What's this one? Oh, this lets you get endurance charges and lets you recover life for consuming them. Okay, well, that's not really maximum life. I mean, it's showing because it has maximum and life. Oh, well, there's this one. 3% maximum life. Huh. Well, okay, well, what about this one? Regenerate 1% max life per. Okay. Wow. There's there's some down here. Oh, those are minions. Oh, and this is reduced maximum life. Huh. Oh, surely there's got to be more than one node that gives you maximum life. Right? No, there's not. Why? Now, if we type in maximum energy shield, oh look, all of these are flashing. Let's see. That's 15%. That's 10%. That's 10%. That's 18%. That's 40%. Oh, that's 15%. Oh, that's 28%. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, that's a 15. That's 60. That's another 15. Oh, that's 15, 15, 25, 15, 15. Okay, that's stun threshold, but you know. Let's see. Oh, that's 30. That's 10. That's 10. That's 10. Wow. There's a lot of them that give maximum energy shield. Oh, and this gives +1 max energy shield per 8 maximum life. Oh. Oh, I see. So you'll notice down here, I have about 1.3k life. Okay. Now, if we look at my equipment, well, let's see, that's 34 max life. That has none. That has none. That's 23. That's 143. That has none. That has none. That has none. Oh, and that has none. So in total, if we pull up a calculator, right? So that's 143 plus 23 plus 34, right? So that would be a total of 200 maximum life that I'm gaining from equipment. Okay. But what you'll notice, oddly enough, right, is I have almost 2.9k energy shield. So let's say that's 125. That's 253. That's 73. That is 29. And that's 43. I only have 523 energy shield on my equipment, which is only, about, I want to say like 150, 200-ish% more than what I have for maximum life. Yeah, oddly enough, I have 2,851 energy shield. So that means I have a total of 445% increased energy shield. This is the biggest issue with melee characters. And we can see this because monks don't seem to have as many issues with especially survivability as warriors do. Well, why is that? Well, if we come over here back to monk, we can see that this is where they start. So why do monks not have the same issue? Well, evasion max shield, evasion max shield, evasion max shield, evasion max shield. Movement speed, evasion max shield, evasion max shield. This is why. Armor is borderline useless because of armor shred, which is everywhere in endgame. But there's no evasion shred. And you can see, granted, I'm only level 8, so take my current evasion percentage with a grain of salt. However, this is not necessarily that unrealistic at endgame. So over here on Darth Microtransactions, you can see this was uploaded about 9 days ago. And you can see he's a level 90 Invoker with 66% evasion, right? So that's what I mean by like 46% really isn't that wild at endgame. So some of the strongest builds right now are either full energy shield, where you get like 20k plus energy shield, or a mixture of evasion and energy shield, where you get a ton of energy shield, like in this one. Oh, I guess 1500 is not a ton, but you get a pretty decent amount, and even he has more life, or almost more life than my boy Jazarus over here. With like 2k life, right? He has like 1.7k life, 1.5k energy shield, so about 3k total effective health, right? And then a 66% chance to evade. Now, what do you evade? Well, you avoid strikes and projectiles. And what are strikes? Strikes are any ability that is not a spell. So, Firewall, that is a spell. My Curse, that's a spell, right? Those are spells. Strikes are like Rolling Slam, for example, right? Like melee attacks. And then projectiles are physical-based projectiles, like from a bow, right? So that's what those are. And then you have your 75% resistance, elemental resistances, and those will basically cover the rest of the damage that you're taking, because you're only going to take 25% of the damage. Now, let's say you wanted to know how much damage you would have to take in one hit to get one shot with this much effective health, right? So, since you are only taking 25% damage, the amount of damage that you would have to be hit for before mitigation in order to kill DM's monk here in one hit would have to be 13,276 damage from either fire, lightning, or cold to die in one hit. Okay. So basically, this character won't ever die. Because there's almost no attack in the game that just hits you for 13k at one time. This is the issue with Melee right now. What they need to do in order to fix this, because I understand this is early access and that nerfs will happen. However, the issue is, in order to nerf Energy Shield to be in line with maximum health, you would basically have to remove all of the Energy Shield nodes here. You'd have to remove every single one and then replace them with something else. With either damage or something. But the issue then becomes, well, now ranged characters are just as squishy as melee characters, and that's it. Now, one counter argument you might be able to make is that for each point of strength, you get 2 life. So right here, I have 62 strength. That means I'm getting around 124 extra life from this, right? But even at 600, or even at just, throwing out a wild number, let's say somehow you got 600 strength. That means you would get 1,200 extra life. Well, I have almost 300 intelligence, with almost every node here being intelligence. I've got a couple of strength and a couple of dexterity, but that's only because of like some minor requirements on these, right? And I could probably even drop some of these and I'd probably be fine. So the strength realistically isn't really granting that much life. And most builds I've seen only get to about 300-ish strength, which means you're only getting 600 extra life. And even at 600 extra life, if we go back over to here, with my boy here at, let me see. So right here, we can see my boy has 2.6k health. It's not the only issue, but it's the biggest issue. Because with Energy Shield, you can basically tank through whatever you want. And then you throw in evasion with that, and you can basically tank through the entire game. So that's the first thing that needs to be fixed, is they need to adjust this, right? They need to change some of these, because I'm sure a lot of these just never honestly get picked. And either move some of these around, because we can see there is still quite a bit of space, right? We need more bonuses to health, and the one that has 3%, dog, this has to be higher. This needs to be, especially for a fucking keystone. That's what these big nodes are, right? These are like some of the big passives. Like, I think these are technically the actual keystones, but like this needs to be higher. Like, this is 3%. This is one of the big ones, right? If we come over here to one that is also big over here, this is 28%, brother. Okay, like this right here, 28% just for this one, right? So this right here, 253 plus 28%, right? That is 70 all on its own. Okay. And that takes this up to over 300. That 3% if we take Mr. Jazrus is over here and we do 3%, that is 9 points higher at 2.6k. If we were to scale that down, right? That's not even 8 extra health. Why? Why? Why are there... That's another thing, is that there are, on top of health, like a lack of health, the amount of nodes, you can see a lot of these are flashing. Many of these are minions, like all of these are minions. This is a reduction to enemies. You can see this gives plus 5% to all. You can see, oh, this penetrates. These penetrate. Oh, that's a reduction. Oh, that's to minions. Yeah, you can see there's like almost none. Oh, that's to totems. There's almost no there's almost no passives that give you a bonus to your resistances, like in Path of Exile 1. In Path of Exile 1, you would get a lot of your defensives from your passive tree. You'd get a bunch, or at least I would get a ton of elemental resistances and chaos resistances, and a lot of that from my passives tree. And then I would supplement my my defenses with equipment for whichever ones that I didn't have enough of, right? But now the majority of them come from my equipment, right? You can see that like this has cold and lightning resist, this is cold resist, this is cold resist, this is fire and lightning resist. You can see it also has fire and lightning on it. I basically can't get rid of this ring because of how much cold resist it's giving me. This is giving me resistance, this is giving me chaos resist and lightning resist, this is giving me resistance, this is giving me resistance, this is giving... Literally every piece of equipment is giving me some kind of massive bonus to my resistances. And even then, the only resistance that's overcapped is a lightning. That's it. And like, you might be like, oh, well, why would you put lightning here then? Well, that's because I put lightning resist on this before I had capped lightning resist. In fact, I only got to overcapped lightning resist after getting this ring, right? And so because you also can't change out your runes once they're socketed, that's another issue. I think, getting into runes, I think what needs to happen is, I'm fine with not being able to remove them once they're socketed. However, if I want to go into my stash and take a fire resist and put it over my lightning resist rune, I should be able to do that. Destroy the lightning resist rune, gain the fire resist. There's no downside. You're losing. You've already consumed the rune. You are consuming an additional rune to go over it, right? And then, especially once something gets corrupted, you can't change it anymore. And I'm fine with that, by the way. Don't get that misconstrued. I'm fine with it not being able to be changed after it's corrupted. But I think you should be able to take a rune, slap it over an older rune to change out what rune is in there. Also, I don't know why these runes are not showing the cold and lightning rune, and instead are just showing this. Same up here. This one is showing the exact same graphic as these. That shouldn't be the case. They should be showing the rune that it actually is, right? But, yeah. That's what they need to do. Also, armor, I think, should work on just attacks and spells. You can see here it reduces physical damage you take from both attacks and spells. But the issue is there aren't really any spells that do physical damage. There's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 that do physical damage. And that's it. So armor really isn't doing anything, and there's a lot of mobs that use spells that don't do physical damage. Now, you might say, oh, but that's what fire, cold, and lightning resist is for. Then what's the point in armor? Why does armor exist if that's the case? I think armor should work against all attacks and spells. I don't think it should be limited to physical, or if baseline that's too strong, which it could be, make it be a passive down here in the warrior tree where the warriors start. Make it one of these keystone passives that are, in fact, make a resolute technique. Remove this never deal critical damage, right? Or put one right here, actually. Make another keystone that comes off from here that says, you cannot evade attacks. You cannot evade attacks, but armor applies to all damage types, right? Or make it so that armor applies to all damage types, but can only go up to 50% rather than 90%, right? I think that would be a fair trade-off. You know, it's a few this way, right? It's an extra 1 past this. You put it right here. So that way you invest 2 more points. You get that. Make this, honestly, I'm going to say make this like a 30%. Remove the stun threshold. Make this like 30%. Make it a keystone passive. Make it actually valuable. Okay? Or even make it like put a keystone up here that says you have your max life is increased by 50%. But I don't know. Let's think of a fair thing to trade off for that, right? Because like that's all at once. That's a pretty massive amount, right? So you increase your maximum life by 50%. And, I don't know, strength no longer contributes to max life. Right? Or no longer contributes to life. I think that would be a fair trade-off. Right? So, you lose about, let's say you have 300 strength, you lose 600 HP. So, let's go over here to my boy Jazz, right? Let's say he loses 600 HP. He goes down to 2,000. But he gains 50%. That means he's gaining 1,000 life. So in total, he's losing 600, but he's gaining 1,000. So that means his life is actually going up by 400 maximum life. And then, if he stacks a whole shit ton of max life modifiers on his equipment, it gets even higher, right? So if he gets a max life roll on his body armor that, let's say, is 200, then that keystone passive makes it so that rather than 200, he's gaining 300. That is a pretty big deal, I think, right? Maybe all on its own, that's not enough. So, and it's probably not. So, you know, you move this over a little bit. You have another one coming up. You know, you move this one over a little bit, make some room right here. And you just have one section that is, you know, similar to this, where it's like 10%, 10%, 40%, but you have 10% reduced life regeneration, and then you have another 10%, 10%, and then 18% with some extra strength and some life regeneration on this side, or something like that, right? Or you go like this route where you got 15%, you got 60% extra life down over in the other area, but your life now, your life regeneration is like energy shield, where there's a delay before it starts to regenerate. Right? So just give melee, give warriors more max health nodes, because dog, this is stupid. This is embarrassing. This should have never made it past alpha. I mean, to be fair, this is basically alpha, but this should have never made it into early access as the only max life increase node. It just shouldn't. Okay. And I would say if maybe they think 30% is a little too strong, try 10% to start off with. Test it out, see how people are feeling with some extra life nodes thrown in here for a good measure. Okay. So that's what I think. On top of that, as Jazra said in his video, make melee skills faster. Or better yet, make it so that you can move around while they're fucking being cast. Because that's the whole fucking incentive to the movement system in Path of Exile 2. Is being able to cast spells while moving. Like, I can even hold this down and keep moving. Like, dog, I don't know why this is... Okay. Like, they need to do that. Make it so that melee can move while they're using their abilities. Speed them up by, I would say, across the board, generally like 15, 20%. And just add a whole shit ton of fucking life nodes to the warrior skill tree. Because as it stands, I think that's the biggest issue with melee. So yeah, thank you all for coming to my corner. Thank you all for watching my video. I appreciate all of you. Hope you all have a fantastic New Year's. If you liked the video, hit like, hit subscribe. If you didn't like the video, hit dislike, leave a comment, let me know why D4 is better than Path of Exile 2. And I'll see you all next time.